Okay, good afternoon. My name is Aisha Yates and welcome to S.O.U.L Fest 2021's discussion about costume and wardrobe. I'm here with a panel of excellence and experience, and we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of working behind the scenes to enhance the look and style of your favorite on-screen characters. I'm going to chat to them for a bit, and then you guys can ask questions a bit later. Please keep your, those watching, please keep your cameras off and put yourselves on mute. You can unmute yourself to ask a question when we come to that part of the discussion. Then please put yourself back on mute when you're done. So without further ado, I'm going to get my guests to introduce themselves and tell us who they are and what they do. Jody, I'll start with you, please.
Hi guys, I'm Jodie-Simone Howe. I am a principal costume standby in TV and film, and I've recently moved into doing more costume design in short film, music video and dance theatre. And I'm currently on a project as an assistant costume designer.
Thank you very much. And Cobbie. Cobbie or Cobbie?
Cobbie, it's fine.
Cobbie. Okay, Cobbie.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Cobbie Yates. I'm a costume designer. I am currently on an ITV drama project shooting in Nottingham, but I've been out of the country for the past 6 to 9 months. So basically the whole of the pandemic, working on a feature film, which is coming out sometime next year, and another TV show for Showtime and for Sky.
Thank you very much. So, okay, Jody, you said something here, principal costume standby. You know, I don't know what that means. And, but then also, Elijah, you both said you're costume designers. So first of all, what's the difference between what you do? What's principal costume standby versus being a costume designer? So I'll go to you.
Okay, so the costume department is actually usually quite big. The costume designer is essentially what we call a HOD, head of department. Right. So it's their design work and vision. The job of the principal costume standby is to be their on-set eyes. So on set, you look after the actors, look after their costumes, keep costume continuity to make sure that, you know, if a costume is set a certain way in a scene, it maintains that throughout. And yeah, that's kind of the job of a principal costume standby. Anything happens on set, it's the principal costume standby's role to fix. And yeah.
What did you say, Cobbie?
The eyes and ears. So basically, you know, Cobbie, don't worry, it's fine. The Ghanaians know it as Cobbie.
The Ghanaian.
Ghanaian is coming out of me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Live it, it's fine. So yeah, I think as Jody kind of very elegantly said, the costume department is a huge team of people. You know, the costume designer is only one mere element. Obviously, it's an important component to the costume department, but there are so many moving parts that kind of make our team an integral, big system, you know. And I guess that the costume standby, it's up to them to really fulfill the costume designer's vision on set, and to maintain the quality of the costumes throughout the start of the production towards the end. You know, they kind of look at the day-to-day play of the costume. They kind of see if there's going to be fight sequences. They see how long that costume's going to be running for. What they predict whether we're going to need doubles or duplicates. They predict, you know, if the weather's changing, they have a look at that. They say to the, you know, designer, okay, the quality of this costume is deteriorating, we might need more. So it's all of those different things that they kind of, they basically take very much so good care of the costume and also the actors that are in those costumes, you know. So just making sure that they feel their best, making sure that they're confident on set and that they can do what they need to do in their job, wearing the pieces of clothes that we give them and that we design for them.
Okay, because I have a background of hairdressing and doing stuff for fashion shows and on video sets and stuff like that. So I now understand what standby means, because it's when you're, you know, watching the hairs like that, you've got to move it.
Exactly.
They're literally standing by at all times.
I literally, and the thing is, I that's a sexy title, because I don't remember being called principal hairdressing standby. I didn't get that title. I feel like I need to go back and cuss somebody. I want that title. It sounds a lot more grandeur than hair assistant standing on set waiting to jump in. But okay, so you talked about that costume is such a broad
department.
That's it. I was going to say division, and I was thinking which one. But I've heard, you know, from being in the industry, it's like hair, makeup, and wardrobe get lumped together, or is it costume and wardrobe? You guys are calling it costume. What's the official title, and can it be broken down into departments within departments?
I would say that costume is the official title. You know, it depends on the production. Obviously, I think the more technical a production, the more it kind of falls into the realm of costume. But it is also costume. You know, it can be just a shirt and it's a costume. I guess some people classify that as a wardrobe piece because it's contemporary or because it's simpler. But what that white shirt has to do in play of the film might mean that it transforms into costume. For example, on my last production in Budapest, the Fear Index, it's all set over 48 hours. So we're filming this thing for 3 months, but it's all set over 2 days, you know? So what happens to him in those 2 days as he's running through the city, he's wearing essentially the same thing for one whole day. He kind of, you know, gets hit by a car, there's explosions, there's all of these different things. He's being chased by someone, he has to fight someone. That shirt is developing, you know. We have to design the stages of what that shirt does and how it lives in the different environments. And with that, different departments have a part to play in that. So the supervisor, which is another very key component to the department, would look at the structure and ecosystem of the shoot and would say, okay, we need this shirt to do a certain number of things, and we'll work with the different departments to make sure that we fulfill the requirements of the shoot, you know? So whether it's if he's doing multiple stunt scenes and he needs to fight someone, or whether we have a stunt coordinator or a stunt person coming in to double from our actor, we have to make sure that we have enough costumes available to service the stunt person. But then also, if they're being stabbed, or if there's blood, or if there's dirt, or if there's sweat, we need to make sure that we have doubles that fulfill those and also fit within the budget, right? Yeah. So we have to look at the budget, break that down, and kind of figure out the best way that we can, with the money that we have, fulfill the creative intention that the director wants to see in the project.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I usually think of wardrobe as usually theatre. In terms of like names, like a lot of the time, like I've worked in theatre as well, and they usually refer to that as wardrobe. Like you have like wardrobe assistant, but we do have like, you know, wardrobe mistress as well in costume. But for TV and film, a lot of the time it's referred to as costume. So it's kind of a broad umbrella for both, because there's so many crossovers. But I usually hear wardrobe referred to for theatre and costume.
Music videos as well, they tend to
say wardrobe,
shout wardrobe.
Wardrobe or stylist.
So you guys, again, you're throwing in these roles that are coming from left, right, and center. How, maybe if there's too many, but what are the key roles? I don't know, in this career.
Yeah, so I would say costume designer. Then you have the costume supervisor, who is the person that usually looks over the budget, kind of does the script breakdown, works with the costume designer about how we can achieve what the designer needs. You then have, this is kind of broad, but then you have like assistant costume designer, who is kind of the support system for the designer, helping to bring their vision to life. So they would often do some of the extra design work.
They'll support the supporting cast, so all of the
all the extras, that's usually designed by the assistant designer. So on bigger projects, there's usually more than one as well. Sometimes they help with the mood boards, things like that. So they're basically there to just prop up the designer and help assist in that way. Then you have the principal costume standbys and costume standbys. Sometimes they vary in terms of title. Sometimes that's to do with like pay, sometimes as well. But principal costume standby depends on level of experience as well. That could also be referred to as key costumier on larger films. That's kind of another regular title that encompasses the same thing.
You'd also get your costume assistants that sometimes they're quite an important part that I think sometimes can be a little bit overlooked, because
Yeah.
oftentimes the costume standby will come in a week, 2 weeks prior to starting the production. So during prep, prep is obviously a very important part of our process in getting the costumes ready and getting the research and the shopping and all of that done. The costume assistant's role will sometimes be a very fluid role that will kind of will be transient between being a buyer, doing research, shopping, doing returns, being assistant, or being on standby for fittings and all of those sorts of things. So they kind of facilitate a number of different things, and sometimes they then go on and will transfer from a costume assistant into a costume standby. So it just depends on the level of experience that you're dealing with when it comes to hiring staff.
Exactly. And then you said buyer, so we have like costume buyers, we have costume fitters. For larger productions as well, you have breakdown, so they kind of age the costumes, as well as dyers as well, who obviously dye the costumes to the designer's liking.
You have
tailors, seamstresses.
Very important part.
Very important, tailors, please. And also then we have like costume trainees who are kind of entry level. They're there to kind of learn, do a lot of the things that sometimes people see as the menial things, but actually they're the main cogs of the system that,
quite often they're the shining stars as well.
I agree. Yeah.
I definitely remember my days of being a junior in a hairdresser, and that level of like, you feel like you're sweeping hair. Why am I sweeping hair? Forever sweeping hair. And making teas, but it is, you start to learn the mechanism.
You learn so much. Yeah.
And quite often, a lot of the trainees that do come up and come through, they've got experience coming into the position as well. So, it's also about giving them the confidence to feel like, okay, I can go for it. You can still be within your role as being a costume trainee, because I think it's very important that you learn the business at that level for a period of time where you really feel seasoned. But it's also very okay to celebrate the research and the work that you've done up until that point. I remember working with a trainee who studied at Harvard. She had been in a costume course for 2 to 3 years, I think it was, before coming in to be a trainee, and had more experience than quite a lot of people on the job, but it's about kind of just being there to accept the role, and also just be open to the department, and the requirements of the department.
Yeah.
So for both of you, what was your route in? I'll start with you, Jody. What was your route in to becoming?
Okay, so my route was, to be honest, I think both of our routes weren't. There isn't. Do you know what? There is no typical route. My route in was a bit weird. So I've got a dance background. Like I was a dancer, or I'm a dancer. I'm a dancer first, and have been since like my early years. So I kind of took a break from dance. And one of my friends had been commissioned to do a show at S.O.U.L, and had asked me to assist and help with costume. And I was like, okay, I can sew. My grandma taught me how to sew. So I was like, yeah, of course, I'll help with whatever you need. And that turned into, sorry, I've got no time to do anything to do the costumes. I'm just handing it over to you. I had no experience at that time. I just was like, okay, if we're doing 3 cyborgs on stage, let me just do this. And, I made a mirror suit, a whole suit of mirrors for a light, like a laser part of the show. There was an ensemble piece, and then there was like a contemporary piece. And it was just kind of me flexing, I guess, my creative flair, and kind of doing research to kind of fill that role, I guess. Off the back of that, there was a lot of like, oh my gosh, who did the costume? And then, that kind of came quite naturally to you. So then I was like, I'm in this kind of transitionary period where I don't really want to be a professional dancer. I do it more for a passion. I was working in TV as a researcher at the time, and I was like, this is not creative enough for me. So I went back and did a short course at London College of Fashion. And during that time, a lot of my dance friends who were commissioned and had funding got me on board to do costumes for them. Then I met an amazing woman called Charmaine Parham at a Royal Television Society event. And we were like the only two Black people there. So like, you know, sometimes when you see another Black person, but you're like, let's not do the thing of being the two Black people that get together quickly. So we kind of did this whole dance around where we were both like talking to other people, and then we ended up in like a queue to talk to this costume designer. And she was transitioning at that point from assisting to doing more design work. And she was just like, what do you do? And I was like, I'm just looking to like kind of get more experience. And she was like, well, I'm looking for an assistant. I'm doing more design stuff. And it was just like that. From that point on, it was like dream team. She was doing a lot of like commercials at the time, music videos. And then she went on to be assistant costume designer on a massive E-entertainment TV show, and got me in as a costume daily, which is another role where you kind of come in and do the extras work, dress the extras. And then from then on, I kind of was like a daily. So I kind of skipped over the trainee role, but I was like a runner and in TV production, and I kind of had the back end experience. So I think it was a lot of like crossover, you know, elements that kind of allowed me to do it. And then
being in the environment gives you that kind of setup. At least you know how things work.
Exactly.
And it's training in a different way, indirect way. Cobbie, what was your route in? I know you were
I'll try and give you a brief one. It's quite long. I guess for me, I started in TV, film, music, fashion. TV, music, fashion. TV, music, fashion. Yeah, I started in that first. So I was working in fashion for a couple of different companies. I worked for Mr. Porter for a number of different years. I worked for Vanessa Porter for a couple of years. I also worked at, bloody hell, I'm trying to go back now. There's been a number of different places. I worked at a couple of magazines. I worked for a couple of stylists and fashion editors. I worked at Love magazine, Tank magazine, British Vogue, a couple of different things. And while I was doing that on the side, I was doing like music videos with friends in London and like getting to know a lot of people that I was familiar with in the industry. They would call upon me to do a music video here and there. And then I started doing that full time. And I was signed by an agency, and I was doing commercial TV and music jobs, and working on like Saturday night TV jobs, and working predominantly with presenters and like artists for a number of different years. But it wasn't really fulfilling me. And then I guess as I started doing bigger music videos and working with directors that were at agencies like Some Such and were at like sort of art house artist management agencies for directors, I started to kind of connect more to the narrative storytelling element to the films and the pieces that we were making. And I just always felt like with music and with TV and with fashion, you were always selling a product. It wasn't really about the creative story that you could contribute to the narrative or to the creative in the project. It was always about selling something and being told to package something. And I didn't really enjoy that. I kind of wanted to be more creative, and I wanted it to feel more natural and organic, you know? And so I remember setting up a cinema club with a couple of my friends, 5 of my friends. It was called the Orange Soda Film Club for anyone that came to it. It was in Brixton. It was with 5 of my friends. My friend Jen and Kiru, who's the director. She's gone on to do some amazing things. Myself, 2 of my other friends who are in like marketing, and one that's in tech at Mr. Porter. And we did that for about 4 or 5 years. And while we were doing that and doing parties and all sorts of other things, we were meeting a bunch of people. And I remember one time we had a screening, and a friend of mine, Fiona, was there, Fiona Lamptey, who I've known for many, many years. And she introduced me to a director, and the director's name was Shola Amu. And Shola was working on his first film, and I had done quite a few music videos. I'd been doing it for like 7 to 8 years at the time, maybe more at the time. And I said to him, oh, I really want to start working in film. And Fiona was like, well, Cobbie's an amazing stylist. He's got loads of creative ideas. You guys should connect. And Shola was like, oh, you should do my film. And it was as simple as that. And I kind of started on a very organic, small budget, independent film called A Moving Image, which was shot in 2014 or 2015. And I pulled in my cousin, who was a hairstylist at the time, who's now also in film full-time. Name's Aisha Yates. She did the hair and makeup design for the film. And then I did the costumes. But it was a really, really interesting first project. It was a complete, a completely black, what do you call it? It was a black project, you know, black creators, black producer. The producer was Renki Atto, who's gone on to do some amazing things. It was just really organic, you know. It was a small budget. We all made it work with the relationships and contacts that we had, and we've all gone on to do amazing things, you know. And from there on, I was kind of doing bits and bobs and doing small bits here and there, and then I did another film with another director called Joseph Adesonle called Faces, which again allowed me to kind of tap into some more creative ideas. And again, I learned straight away as a costume designer. You know, I didn't have to kind of do the route of being a trainee, but I did the route as a trainee in fashion, and I did the route as an intern in fashion and all of that sort of stuff. And so I knew what stories I wanted to tell. It was just about making sure that I had the full tools in my arsenal necessary to fulfill the role as a costume designer. And I feel like I've just learned it over time, you know?
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, I guess it is something that's inherent in you. You kind of have the eye. But Cobbie, I wanted to check that. Do you have, how much time do you have left? Because I know you have to kind of shoot.
I've got a little bit more time. I've got about another. Yeah.
Okay, cool, brilliant. So I was going to say, so it's one of those things where you've got the eye, you've got the heart, and you've got the thing. But what is the thing that makes someone stand out as a stylist? Because I think I'll run this question together. Because I think, you know, like, because I was going to say, who are some of the icons in the industry and how do they stand out? And what makes a costume designer or someone in this position stand out? Because especially if you're styling maybe a contemporary piece, because usually it's period drama, and you know that the more intricate the design, the intricate the costume, it tends to get more attention than if you just put someone in a white shirt and a pair of jeans. But yet how important that actual outfit is to the whole character in the wider world of the film. So how do you stand out? And then the second question is, yeah, some icons in the field and why they stand out. Maybe I'll come back to that, but yeah.
I think how you stand out is fully understanding the ecosystem of film and how to tell a story, and how to use elements of cinema to make things emotive. I think whether it's, for me, color theory is really important. And I think there are elements of cinema that I have learned and that I have kind of grown up on just by kind of subliminally not even realizing that they had affected me, you know, and looking back and then looking at some of my favorite costume designers like Casey Storm, who did Spike Jonze's film, Her. I love, of course, Ruthie Carter, and you look at her, her life cycle as a costume designer and how she started out. You look at someone like
School Days,
music videos. It was like, you know, coming on board, not really having the full arsenal, and then actually putting in work. You know, I also look at someone like Lisa Duncan, who's another British costume designer who was also in fashion, you know, and was kind of like pulling from her experience and then using, and then also taking it upon yourself to learn and to really self-start and really initialize and kind of look at other areas of how you can be a better storyteller. I think that is what makes the designer special, and that's what makes you stand out when you can see that they've thought of every element.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I just totally agree. I totally agree with that. I think definitely as well, like, experience can definitely help. Like, obviously Cobbie mentioned Lisa Duncan, and like she was the costume designer for Mangrove, part of the Small Axe series. And working under her, like I was principal standby on that, and working under her was beautiful because, you know, as a Black mixed race woman, being able to put your aunties on your mood boards, you know, it's not just actual research, it's actual research, but research of the soul, research of your experience. Like, so there's certain nuances that she had. Yeah, there's certain nuances that she had in that show that, you know, I think the Caribbean aunties was like, oh yeah, because I was wearing those pop socks with that skirt. you know, that certain other people, you may not be able to find those in books, in research and on the internet, but you know, being able to just know certain things, I definitely think that helps as well. Like, and that can be the standout, you know, missing piece, I think, a lot of the time.
Picking up on what you said, Jody, I think that the more dynamic the storyteller is, the more you get to see a variety of things. So having different ethnicity costume designers telling stories means that you experience things in different ways, because culture just comes into the story. You know, I've just finished work, or not just finished on it, I finished on it last year, but I worked on a UK garage film that my brother directed called Pirates, and you know, it's all about the UK garage scene. And you know, at the time I was 13 and my sister was 18, 19, you know, the specific event and night that he's talking about, I remember my sister getting ready for that night. I was her photographer at the house before she left, you know. It was 1999, she was going to Hippodrome, it was a UK garage thing, you know. Like, I remember the outfits, they were there, they were in my house, they were in my hands, you know. It's those tangible memories and those word of mouth moments where, you know, only you know about. When the kids were growing up in that time period, people would have the chubba chubs in their hair. And, you know, it's like things like that you just can't find in images or in pictures. It's personal photos. It's going to have those intimate conversations with friends and relatives that you know. I'm working on another thing right now, which is kind of very diverse and multicultural. It's essentially about two white main characters, but this white main character has grown up in an African household, and so that blend of her experiencing culture in a different way is really important, you know. And one of my best friend's mothers, she grew up in Hackney, but then moved to Derby to go and run an internet cafe. And this is a Nigerian woman running an internet cafe in a very white area, you know, and she used to have all the kids coming in from secondary school to kind of use the internet on her computers, and she would feed them and she would give them, like, you know, she would give them a gussie or whatever. And it's like, you know, those moments, having those conversations, taking the time to have those conversations and think about how you can incorporate them into your design, I think is really important.
So you both mentioned that having that authenticity and experience and bringing diversity on set is also a big boost. And I can't find my words, but yeah, it helps in that moment. So I have the big black question that I always ask. So what's your experience being black in the industry? Because I think one thing, when I used to do hairdressing and when I transitioned out and got into media, and I was like, I can't let it go. I love doing fashion shows. I love it. And then I thought, actually, where my skill lies, because that's where I was brought in to doing fashion shows, because I could do the black models and apply and have that knowledge, especially of braiding. Then I marketed myself as like, look, if you want, I can't do all the stuff because I'm now in media. However, if you need someone to braid and do those intricate styles, holler at me, and if I'm available, I'll come and do it. So I made sure I branded myself as someone available, and I'm happy for you to send all the black models to me, and then I'm good. I know I've taken care of the people that look like me on set. So for yourselves, your experience of being black and how you utilize that and turn that into an advantage and a benefit and an asset to any production that you've worked on.
I mean, I'll take this first. To be honest, when I first started out, I was kind of, I call them LOD teams, lack of diversity teams. So I was on a lot of LOD teams where I guess I started like 8-9 years ago, and at that time, you know, the resurgence. Right now, we're in a renaissance period, you know. But at that time, there wasn't many of us, so I kind of, you know, you deal with the things, like that's what I mean. You get by. You do with all the things, you know. And I think that as a person, I get on with everybody. I was able to do my job. I was able to thrive in those environments. However, I think over the past maybe 3-4 years, like I've worked on more diverse programs.
We're losing you, Jody. Can you repeat if we can get you back? Cobbie, do you want to... Oh, hello.
You said that...
Sorry, let's start again.
No.
It was cutting out for me, and I don't know if it was cutting out for everybody else.
Out for me as well.
Okay, so you're gonna have to repeat everything you just said.
Sorry.
No, not everything. From
oh my God, guys, it says
It's fine. It's international Wi-Fi. We were talking about it.
No, it says my internet's unstable, so I apologize
No
if
problem.
it's doing
Maybe
that
the
madness.
last couple of sentences that you were saying, if you can go over that.
Yeah, I think you were just that you've had to work with a broad spectrum of teams. I think that's where you were.
Yeah. So I mean, I've worked on like loads of different teams, but over the past like 3-4 years, I've worked on very diverse programming and diverse teams, and I didn't realize how much for actually my mental health it actually made a difference to me. You know, I would be on set sometimes and then see like, oh, like a black guy in the art department, and we'll give the nod, and it'd be like, yes. But like now, over the past couple of years, I've worked on shows, and I'm seeing diversity everywhere. And I'm not just talking about black people. I'm talking about like people with disabilities. I'm talking about like all diverse people. And I think that's what it needs to be. It needs to be reflective of that behind the screen as it is on the screen. But I mean, I feel like, you know, we're in the UK. Obviously, I'm not now, but you know, we're in an environment where, regardless of where you are, you know, we may be the global majority, but we are the minority in those spaces. So you kind of just do the things to make it happen. But I think I've realized that now that there's more diversity behind the camera, we're seeing so much more full spectrum in front of the camera than we ever have, you know, and like it's evident, like when you look at the Steve McQueen small acts, when you look at a lot of the programming that's happening now, you got even Bloods, for example, which is on Sky. I worked on with Samson Kayo, and like, you know, and
Oh, we've lost her again. Is she come back? Is she gone?
No. Oh, let's go to you, Cobbie, and pick up. We lost you, Jody, but we'll come back to you again.
Okay.
I think that how I've dealt with it is it's been tough, but I have always, you know, what I always go back to. I think in film and in costume, obviously our job, or for me at least, I take our job as the study of people and you know, the presentation of people, right? So we're presenting ourselves on screen, or we're presenting a fantasy of something on screen, right? So often when I'm going through something tough, I look back to my experiences and how I grew up and how that has shaped me. And then I also try and consider how that person's grown up, and maybe that's why they've shaped them in this way, for them to communicate with me in this way, right? And I think about my primary school and just being lucky enough to be from South London, to be from a community that was incredibly diverse. And when I say diverse, I actually mean diverse. I use the word, I don't like the word, but is everyone there? Hello?
We just asked, I think for connection, we've asked Jody to turn off her camera. Which is a shame, because your face is so beautiful. But maybe come back in a bit, but
I think, the way I've looked at it is, you know, I look at my primary school, which was basically the United Colours of Benetton. You know, it was like, okay, one of my really good friends, Jenny, is from China. You've got the Japanese kid over here. You've got the kid from Turkey over here. You've got the Greek kid. You've got the Filipino kid. You've got the black kid. You've got the South Asian kid. You've got the Pakistani kid. Like there's literally like everyone in the room. You know, it started to confuse me when I would go to a job in London and only have one black person and Filipino person, no Indian person, no, like it just, for me, that was the real thing that was confusing me. So I would find it tough, but then I would also think about everyone else's struggle and think to myself, okay, well, I'm at least in the room, you know, like, what does it feel like to not even be in the room? And not even to be considered, looked at, anything. So I really try and find strength, and I hate being the beacon, but like, you know, when I am in a room, the way I've been brought up is, you know, you have to always be the example, and I might not want to be, but that is just what it has to be until there's 10 of you in the room and you don't quite have to be that example anymore. And even when 10 of you are in the room, if 10 of you aren't excellent, then you're going to have to be the example. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's constantly looking at and reviewing until we are more of a majority. We cannot afford to be anything less than great. And so I think that we have been handed a brush that is tricky, but if we want to change this world in any way, we have to take that responsibility seriously. And I think I've just grown up around very hardworking, very determined, very successful minded people. And so it's never not been my MO. You know, when I wake up in the morning, the suffering, I know it's going to happen. So it's like, it's never not, I don't wake up expecting to not suffer. Do you understand? So when you have that mindset, you're always surprised when it starts to get easier. You know, I think that's how I look at things.
That's understandable. Jody, you founded the Black Costume Network, right? So
Yeah.
So in amongst the positivity and the reclaiming and asserting yourselves, there was still a need to create a network of visibility for Black costume designers or Black costume creatives.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if my internet's going to sabotage me again, but
I might have to jump out now, guys.
Okay.
But I don't want to, but I've literally got commitment.
Okay. Go.
I will go.
I got this, Cobes. I got it.
Well, okay, just quickly to say, or anyone who had a question for Cobbie, we can probably pass them on in an email and maybe see how we can we'll definitely do this again for sure. Cobbie, thank you for your time. The next job that we'll see is Pirates coming out.
Pirates coming out. That's coming out on the 26th of November. Then you've got the Fear Index, which is coming out at some point next year, which is on Sky. And I think we're working with an American partner as well. And then I have the Silent Twins, which is also coming out.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Features Letitia Wright, Tamara Lawrence. That'll be with Universal and Focus at some point next year as well. And then I also have the one that I'm working on right now. So loads of things.
You're booked and busy.
Booked and busy.
We love it. We love it. We love it. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries.
Take care.
Bye, Jody. Love you.
Bye, guys. Love you.
So yes, back to you and the Black Costume Network, Jody.
Yes. So the Black Costume Network, we founded last year in the height of lockdown. It was kind of based, it was because I was very vocal with what was going on. And I was putting up a lot on social media, and a lot of Black costume creatives that I knew, which was probably about 5 or 6, were messaging me privately saying, oh yeah, I agree. But like a lot of people felt like they couldn't express themselves like fully. So for a while back, myself and another designer called Ruka Johnson, who designed Rocks, she's amazing, we'd said, oh, it would be good if we could get a couple of like Black costume people together. So we were like, why not now? So at that point, I was like, I sent a message to the network that I had of like Black and mixed race costume people, and asked them to forward on. And we set up a WhatsApp group, and we held a Zoom like a couple of days after. And honestly, it was like the most cathartic, beautiful thing. It was like 25 of us at the time. And there was designers, trainees, standbys, supervisors in the mix. And people were just able to like freely express their feelings about themselves in the industry, us as a whole in the industry, our previous experiences, positive and negative, and really just kind of have this community that we'd never had. And like, you know, an amazing, he's a costume designer as well, but he's worked in the industry for ages, called Mark Lord, and I knew him as a fitter more than anything. But he recently did a Johnny Salmon's, the BBC, Dreaming Whilst Black. So he designed that, and like, you know, he's been in the industry over 25 years, and he was like, I've been the literally only one for a time in spaces, and to be in a space like this, like to even see your faces is so beautiful. And you know, it was really cathartic. Like people cried, like we all cried. Like it was just because at that point we didn't know what was going to be happening with our industry, because everything was shut down, you know, for TV and film. And yeah, since then, we've just kind of built on that. There's like over 90 of us, there's like 95 of us in the WhatsApp group now. We've built a database of, you know, Black costume people. People are now sending us jobs. But most importantly, you know, the job posts, I always say this is a job post situation with people emailing us, designers, supervisors, producers, emailing us and us sending out these job posts. That's second to, like, that is, you know, everybody's working right now, which is amazing, you know. And I know that we have definitely contributed to that in some way. But more than anything, I think it's the community that we're building. Like for me, I really just want to focus on us and then the bigger picture. Because, you know, if you focus on what's at home and everybody's eating and doing well, then what we put out is going to be amazing. And, you know, it's a supportive space where people can complain if they need to. You know, if anything happens, we've now got 94 people behind us. And things like, if, you know, as Cobbie said, he's booked and busy. When Cobbie's job comes out, you know, he will post in the group and everyone be like, congrats, blah, 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 blah. Just knowing that you've got that behind you is so beautiful, you know. And yeah, it was needed. And
Yeah.
I hope there's a time when, you know, the need to do like the job posting and all that is not necessary. But I feel like having the hub and community of the Black Costume Network is one of the most beautiful things, and I hope that that continues like to thrive, you know.
It's a brilliant initiative. I mean, I wouldn't call it initiative. It's a brilliant coming together and a necessary one. And
Yeah,
it does.
it's
You do
beautiful.
feel like you can feel isolated in the industry. I think for me in the hairdressing space, it wasn't like that. But then sometimes as you
Yeah,
go into spaces like some fashion shows, you're like, oh wow,
there's no
okay.
yeah,
And when you see models or actors beelining to you, like, oh my God, thank you, someone who knows
yeah,
my
yeah.
hair and stuff like that, or you know, my shape and stuff like that. So guys in the audience watching, please drop your questions in the chat, or let me know if you want to ask a question, and then I'll come to you. You can ask the question live and then go back on mute. So let me know. Don't be shy. Jodie's here to answer your questions as long as her Wi-Fi complies. And until you do that, I shall continue asking you questions. So can you tell us a project that challenged you the most and made you want to quit or question
Ooh.
why you're doing this damn thing? And then how did you resolve to keep going? Find the resolve, I should say.
Okay, no job has ever made me want to quit. I'm one of those people who just like I thrive under pressure, even though when I'm like, this gonna break me. It's most jobs actually. That's like, this is crazy, mad. But I'm gonna get through. The one I'm currently on is very crazy. The schedule is very up and down. It's very intense. Obviously, I'm away from home, London, home comforts. But I'm supporting Ruka Johnson on this one. She's designing this, which is amazing. But I mean, there's not been a job that's made me want to quit because I kind of see the bigger picture of me being in spaces, even if I am the only diverse person. I know that my presence and, as Cobbie said, being the example can actually help the next people coming in. But the job that I found was most difficult but most rewarding, so I'm flipping it a little bit, was I did a music video for Rally Ritchie called Aristocrats, which I was currently working on another job, a film for Sky, and we were doing 11-day fortnights, which meant that I was working 6 days on, then a day off, then 5 days, then 2 days. And I got asked to do this music video, and I'd kind of initially tried to pass it on. I was like, I can't do that. Like, there's no way. And they were all having none of it. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing it. And the video basically moves through 7 different time periods. It's a Black family portrait. And the amount of research I had to do for that, the fittings, the pulling of period costume. But for me, I had an all Black team. It was portraying regal Black people, portraying the theme of the song was talking about Black Britain, which I really hit home to me. And like all the people behind the scenes was Blackly Black. And it was just, you know, it was just one of those projects that I was like, I'm literally about to burn out, you know. But it was like amazing. It was genuinely one of the best, most tiring. parts, like, you know, of my career. But you know, it got nominated for best styling in the Music Video Awards last year, UK Music Video Awards. So, you know, all of that put into it, I think it showed, but it was very, very challenging because we shot it all in one day. It was like a 13,
Wow.
14 hour day, you know, it was crazy.
I remember those days. I kind of miss them, but I get that thing, that energy and synergy when you're just like, this is pressure, this is hell, this is madness. However, there's that when it's, especially when you're living your passion, it's just you kind of thrive off it. So I was going to ask you which project validated what you do and why, but I feel like that is, I say, okay, if it's not, which project has made you feel like I've arrived? I am Ms. Jody, the stylist.
Jodie-Simone. Like do you know what, that project, but also although my role was like costume standby, small acts, for me, it was like, you know, for me, it was one of those things that I felt like I was really representing my people, like, you know, Caribbeans, my grandma who came over, do you know what I mean? My parents who first generation growing up in the UK, I felt like I was really able to represent them, and working on a job with so many amazing Black and diverse actors and actresses. Like, for me, I was like, I've arrived, like I'm actually here. But yeah, and then off the back of that, I worked with some other people that was on it as a designer on projects that are coming up, which I can't talk too much about, but like projects that are coming up, you know. So and this one, I feel like for me personally was a big one because it was the first music video I ever did, but it was Kano's Trouble.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Class of Deja Trouble. Like, I'm like, you know, I was born in '88. Like, so for me, I grew up, even though I was South London, I would like move the aerial to try and get Deja Vu. Like, I grew up with that, you know. So I'm a big like fan and like supporter of like Kano, of DWE, of Gets. So for me to be able to work on that, but also be able to portray what was portrayed in the video, I really felt like really strongly about that one. So yeah, I felt like at that point I was like, I'm doing something I love doing, and I'm able to, you know, show my community in all its glory, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, you know. And I think that definitely was a 2 thumbs up moment for me.
So in that, now you're in a position to kind of pick your project. What is it about project that that stands out to you, that lets you say, okay, this is one for me, and I want to take it on? What's your route into it?
So the project has to have a diverse cast. It's like a no-brainer for me now. Like, I can, you know, you can actually say no now. It has to have a diverse cast. It has to, for me, not explore too many stereotypes of people of color, and you know, kind of show the multifacetedness of people of color and Black people. Those are the sort of projects I want to work on. Projects that I think speak to our fullest experience. That's the projects I want to work on, and specifically, you know, most importantly, projects that show our beauty and our regalness. Like, I would love to work on more projects like that as well.
And then can you know, going back to like getting into the industry and stuff like that, can you specialize in a genre? Like, say, okay, because I don't know. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, there are people who like specialize in contemporary, like, you know, they work on like solely work on contemporary projects. There are a lot of people who work mainly in the sphere of like kind of the ethereal, you know, sphere. And yeah, you can. I definitely wouldn't want to ever box myself. Like, I'm a bit nerdy. I love sci-fi. Like, I grew up on Star Wars and Star Trek. My parents would watch them all the time when I was growing up. So for me, like, Gersha Phillips, like, she's doing Star Trek Discovery at the moment, Black woman, costume designer, actually amazing. And like, I would love to do a project like that, for example, which is like, you know, creating its own kind of world, you know.
So as you saying that, if you have like your body of experience. So if
Mhm.
you've got like, you know, a contemporary, maybe period, and then you want to go into sci-fi,
Yeah,
how then do you prove yourself? Like I can, because sci-fi, and especially the bigger the project,
yeah,
a lot of specific
yeah,
detail and creative detail. How
yeah.
then can you make that transition? And what do you need to do?
I think it is very difficult oftentimes when I even found this when I was working in TV and production. I was working on a lot of factual entertainment shows, and I really wanted to go into children's, and it was very difficult to make the crossover because all of my experience was in factual entertainment. But I find that, you know, a lot of getting the job sometimes is people giving you the opportunity, giving you the chance. But also, you know, if you're having the meetings with people, you're showing them your work, you're showing them your mood boards, and you can always pinpoint certain things that you might be able to be like, this element of it I can move into this sphere. And I know a lot of sci-fi stuff is, you know, like forward thinking fashion a lot of the time. You know, there's a lot of like fashiony elements, so there's definitely a lot of crossovers that you can do. But who knows? I mean, I worked on this short called The Last Days, which recently came out. It's at Edinburgh Film Festival, showing at the moment. Um, and it's kind of positioned in this sphere where you're not totally sure if it's the future, if it's the past, if it's another dimension. It's kind of everything, like they're wearing earpods, but then they've got like tape players, and you know, they've got like a mobile phone, but also a corded phone. So for me, that sphere, like Dippo, the director, it allowed me to pick bits from everywhere and kind of like fuse it together to create this world, which feels like home but slightly skew if you know what I mean. So I think a lot of it is mood boarding. You know, when you go into a lot of these meetings and interviews, you're showing people your work via mood boards. And if you've got really good boards, really good research, sometimes you can get on a project because they can't deny you. You
Yeah.
know, and I definitely think, I know that Cobbie has got on projects based off of that alone. You know, so.
I think our time is running out. You guys didn't have any questions, but I'm sure you stayed and you're listening intently. So I'm hoping you got a lot out of what Cobbie and Jodie-Simone brought to us. Just quickly, what projects? So you've said what have you got coming out that you can talk about, and where can we either, if you guys are interested in contacting the Black Costume Network,
Yes.
and find out more about what you do?
So the Black Costume Network first. So the Black Costume Network, you can follow us at the Black Costume Network on Instagram. Our Instagram presence is pretty limited at the moment, but we do answer emails. We're in the back end at the moment, like rebranding, kind of like getting our new logo sorted so we can really push out on social media. But you can email us at theblackcostumenetwork@gmail.com, and we get back to you in at least 2 days, because we do run the Black Costume Network alongside our roles in costume. And projects that I've got coming out. So yeah, The Last Days, which is out at the moment. I think it was recently being able to be streamed as part of a festival, but with Edinburgh Film Fest, I think you can buy it to watch at the moment. But that's at The Last Days Film, I think, on Instagram. There's a couple of other short film projects which haven't been announced, so I can't announce them. But I promise you, they're really exciting, and they're showing Black people in all their glory. Um, um, but yeah, all the projects I'm working on really haven't been announced, and the project I'm currently working on has a working title, so I can't really give you that either because it's not confirmed.
Okay, it's fine. I know how it goes.
But I would like to say, although it's not my project, Stephen is coming out on ITV, and S.O.U.L, who is an amazing costume designer, designed it. It's his first costume design job. Black French dude, amazing. So please support that. It'll be on the 30th on ITV.
And
So,
that's the follow-up story to Stephen
follow-up
Lawrence.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, check that out. So thank you so much again, Jodie-Simone. And
Mm-hmm.
for everyone who stayed around, thank you for watching and listening. Like I said, I hope you got enough out of it. And please check out the rest of the Soul Fest schedule, which is one more day. This is it.
Yes.
Today's the day.
Yes.
There are a few tickets left for Summer of Soul this evening, so get online and book your ticket. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye. Tschüssi.
Bye.